So Ryan, how did you get involved in racing? How did you start out?
Man, it was bicycle racing at 8 years old. My dad, he got me into that. Then to dirt bikes, then to go-karts, and then we went to dirt track. Dirt track from mud trucks, was always involved in four-wheel drives. That kind of stuff, building them, in high school with buddies and stuff. Got into the mud, from Louisiana, so we were always in the mud. And a buddy of mine had a Jeep. Said, hey, let's go Hot Springs, go trail riding. I'm like, man, there ain't no mud in Arkansas. Said, I'll go. And I started, we went to do a little trail ride in the Jeep, and a guy came by and he had a buggy. And I was like, man, what is that? And he said, that's a rock buggy. And I was like, oh man, that's cool, So by that time I started dirt tracking, and eventually I said, man, I got to build, the rock crawler was still in the back of my mind. I said, I got to build one of those things, I had the dirt track, bending tubing, that kind of stuff. So we ended up building one, built a rock crawler, and kind of built one. And then my buddies, my wife always says one jackass follows the next. Well, he's like, hey man, build me one. And, and then we had two, and then we built another one, and, and then everybody started getting into it. And then we got into the rock bouncing world. They came to town, and it was Ultra4 and rock bouncers. We got into the rock bouncing stuff, hill climb, did a little bit of that stuff, and then eventually switched over to the Ultra4 series, and been neck deep in it ever since. So I race in the 4800 Legends class, and it is a single shock per corner, 37 max DOT tires. So that means that we can only run the regular truck tires that you buy at my shop, or anybody can come and buy them, over the counter truck tires. So there's nothing special about them far as, they're everyday. You can put them on the highway, put them on your pickup. You could come into my shop next week and buy the same tires we're racing on. Because this class, getting flats and punctures in the sidewall, you're not going to win the race if you're changing tires every 20 miles. So, that's kind of what this class is about, is driving and having no flats. Started out in the pro comps, but we chose Kenda because it's real important not to get sidewall punctures, and tough as nail tires. I know in nationals I had one flat tire, and that was my fault, kind of a driver error, but the whole race, no punctures, no flats. So that's very important in this class, is to have no flats. Good tires, man. Jeep owners, man, they love these tires. Then we got this new one. We've had the Kenda RT Cleaver, good for like, the Jeep community, the guys that go wheeling a little bit, but don't get too extreme. But, and they've been asking, man, when are they gonna make something, with some meat on it, So now this is coming out, so it ought to be pretty cool to see what's gonna happen. So I really believe in Kenda's philosophy of podium to pavement. These tires were designed by racers, for racers, and then they take that to the road. Yeah, I really like the block sidewall, the little rim guards, and then the cross cut for traction, forward traction in this mud and sand. Man, it really hooks good. You don't have to just light your motor up just to try to get up some of the sand stuff. They really pull great. So yeah, this is a brand new tire. Kenda air freighted these tires for me to get them here quick. So they're, like I say, they're brand new. They hadn't even been out to the public yet. So we're anxious to see how they do. From what I've gathered so far, they're pulling awesome. We've done some testing, and everything looks good. So hopefully we have a good race day. If you have more than, let's say, 3 flats in this race, you might as well take it to the trailer, because you're not gonna win, The sidewall is really what caught my eye. The sidewall, and then the rim guard protection of the wheel, because wheels get beat up and we're on rocks, and these rocks are sharp here in California, very sharp, and just, you know, you can bump into one and it's just like having a knife putting it in your sidewall. So the sidewall was the key. We're running about 30 PSI because we're hitting stuff so hard to try not to bust the wheels. You know, when you impact these rocks, the tire flexes, and I mean, you smack a rock and bust a wheel and have a flat, and the tire will be fine, but the wheel will be gone. So we try to run about 30 PSI. We went with the all-wheel drive this year. We were running that. We went with the SCS gearbox, so it's kind of something we picked up from rock bouncing. You know, if you can't break it in a rock bouncer, you definitely, you know, it should be strong. But it's an all-wheel drive. We just have a high-low box, and then we have a maximum transmission, builds our transmissions, one of the best transmissions out there. And then all the fluids in it, liquid, you know, liquid moly, from the gear oil to the transmission fluid, motor oil, power steering, brake fluid, everything. So in this Ultra4 series, there's no chase trucks, there's no help. You can have help from other competitors, but you can't have help from pit crew unless you make it to the pit zone. There's like 4 different pit zones, but just say you blow out a tire and you're 100 yards and you can see your pit guys with all the fancy jacks and air impacts. You have to change it yourself and make it into the pit zone before you can have any help or you get disqualified. Man, it's everything from sand, rock, mountains, sand hills, lake bed, flat footing, 100 miles an hour to 5 miles an hour rock crawling for 2 hours. I mean, they throw everything at you. You go fast, you go slow, you go fast, you go slow. So, you know, it's kind of sketchy once you get into the rocks and beat your stuff up, and then you have to get back out on the lake bed and run 80 to 90 miles an hour. So it's got to be built. We're going to run a steady pace. We're going to try to push it, but we're going to try to just survive and finish the race. That's in King of the Hammers. That's always the plan. You know, the fastest guy never wins.